session for the folks who are not here. So I know our official topic for tonight is sorrow, and who could have anticipated when we planned this a year and a half ago that there would be so many opportunities to be experiencing sorrow right now. So, I know that we're all trying to be positive, and that.
Rabbi,
Yes.
Sue says she's trying to get in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's a
I don't know what I do with my cell phone.
Yeah, it's okay. Thanks for trying, Sheila. It's
Sure.
a challenge with these Zoom things. I experience this multiple times a day, every day with people. Oh, look at this.
What? Where is she? Is she here?
She's coming.
Oh yeah, here she is. You're close.
So lot of things to be sad about right now. I mean, we're sad about the quarantine and the COVID and the serious situation that so many people are facing with the illness, and then layered upon that, the sadness that this is our last Chaburah class.
Unbelievable. Yay!
So nice to see you. We'll check in with you in a minute. I'm just talking about the multiple occasions for sorrow right in this moment. We got COVID, and we got Chaburah ending, and then we've got the whole implosion of our country around George Floyd and all of those issues. So, whatever's going on in our individual lives, one of the things is that we all experience sorrow, and that's the reality of our lives. But so, Sue, look, are you having trouble with your audio, honey? Hey, Sue Prouty, can you hear me? Sue, can you hear me?
Earth to Sue.
I know it's frustrating. I mean, the technology.
Yes, it's very
frustrating. None of us, with the exception of maybe Michael, are, fluid with this technology, and it's a big challenge trying to figure it all out. So anyway,
There's Amanda.
We lost Amanda.
All right, Sue will join us when she can. So let's all just kind of take a deep breath, and here we are. I really want to focus on the micro level here tonight, and all of us and all of our experience of sorrow, and hopefully also our experiences of happiness and joy, so that we can leave on a more positive note as we wrap up this evening. I don't know if I had a chance last time to read the quote that's in your handout from Elizabeth Gilbert about diligent joy. Did we look at that? So let me start with that. It's on page 2 in your handout, but you don't need to look at it. I'm going to read it to you. Happiness is the consequence of personal effort. We might have read this, but it bears repeating. Okay, Matthew put a note. Yeah. There you go. Good. You fight for it. You strive for it. Insist upon it, and sometimes even travel around the world looking for it. So this is Elizabeth Gilbert writing from her book, Eat, Pray, Love, where she did travel internationally, looking about.
Turn on your audio.
And love.
Oh, no. Yeah, turn on your audio. Okay, I'm hanging up. I'll talk to you later.
What I'm doing, I'm just muting everybody and then unmute as needed. You have to participate relentlessly in the manifestations of your own blessings. Let's just think about that for a minute. What does that mean? The manifestation of your own blessings. Think about what that means. So we all have many blessings in our lives. The question is, how do we express, how do we manifest those blessings? And that's something she says we need to participate relentlessly in that. So we can't just be passive about the blessings in our lives. We have to participate relentlessly in bringing those to the fore. And once you have achieved a state of happiness, you must never become lax about maintaining it. So you don't get to be, okay, there's no happily ever after. Okay, now I'm happy. Now I can relax about the manifestation of my blessings. I don't need to focus on being happy. I've achieved that state of happiness. No. You must make a mighty effort. A mighty effort. This is why I enjoy her writing. Participate relentlessly. A mighty effort to keep swimming upward into that happiness forever, to stay afloat on top of it. If you don't, it will leak away your inner contentment. So we can all have that peak moment of, oh, what is that I'm feeling right now? Oh, I'm happy, I'm content. But if we don't consciously stay on top of that, it will dissipate. It's easy enough to pray when you're in distress, but continuing to pray even when your crisis has passed is like a sealing process, helping your soul hold tight to its good attainments. And I think that's a really good message for us as we get prepared to wind down on this course of study and take a little break. We each need to ask ourselves that question. How are we going in the next 10 weeks to hold tight to our good attainments? When I finish this quote, I actually think that I'd like to hear people respond to that. How are you going to hold tight to your good attainments? This is a practice, Gilbert writes, I've come to call diligent joy. The search for contentment is therefore not merely a self-preserving and self-benefiting act, but always a generous gift to the world. So that's a beautiful idea, that through our struggle to hold on to our attainments, to perfect ourselves, to be better people, that is a gift to the world. So this past week, we have a new staff person at Temple Chai. Her name is Kaylee Medansky. Many of you may know Erin Wynn. Erin Wynn was the director of youth and family programming, and she had taken a new job, a wonderful new position with the Union for Reform Judaism, like in February. And then, of course, in March, the world came crashing in, and then maybe 3 weeks ago, she got word that her position was being eliminated. So very, very sad for Erin and her career progression. But we have a new person, Kaylee Medansky, who is looking to come into that position. Hey, Vicki, we see you. We'll catch up with you in a second. Kaylee Medansky. And the temple got a small grant to work on social justice projects, and Kaylee had been hired to facilitate those projects, and will probably step into also Erin's role with the youth and family programming. Anyway, so I had a Zoom meeting with Kaylee just a couple of days ago. She's talking to all of the members of the staff about how does social justice interact with our work at Temple Chai? And my response to her was, my social justice work at Temple Chai is I'm building better people one person at a time. So that's how I kind of looked at what our Musar work is. You know, this This is our way of building a better world by looking within, looking at these midot, trying to become better, more elevated, more holy people, one might say, and bring those gifts into every life that we touch, every moment of every day. So, so I want to hear your responses to what are you going to do in the next 10 weeks to help your soul hold tight to its good attainments. And with that, Vicki, just tell us what's going on in your world. It's nice to see you. We don't hear you.
How's that?
Better.
So nice to see all of you.
So nice to see you.
Yeah, I totally spaced out on tonight. That is so unlike me. But I, like the rest of you, have had a rather tumultuous week looking at the news and feeling the pain of our country. And today I took a rest and renewal day because I was beginning to feel a little hopeful. And I totally forgot about Musar. So I must be very rested and renewed. So I do apologize. But
did you do anything special to rest and renew?
Well, I was reading sacred texts, and I'm going to go on retreat next week just to kind of get my mind away from the tumult. And no, not. I just kind of paused. I watched less TV. Probably that was I just tuned in just to make sure our country was still standing, and I turned it off. So that was probably the best thing I did today.
So you typically watch a little more TV.
I was more drawn to all the coverage than I wanted to be or I needed to be, but it was like I couldn't turn it off. So that's my story, and I'm sure all of you have your own stories about your experience with your interface with all that we've seen and experienced. So, but nice to be with you.
Yes, I'm glad you remembered and you were able to tune in.
I had a wonderful, miraculous call from someone who ever called me. Thank you. So thank you.
Good. All right. And Sue has been on and off, and Cliff and Sue have another commitment. It's Cliff's dad's birthday. So there you go. So what are you going to do? What was the phrase again? What are you going to do to hold tight to your good attainments? Yes, Beth.
Well, I'm going to stick with the pattern that we've created here. I'm going to go back and pick, a topic, whether it's sorrow or whatever the topic is, get my phrase back up on my wall and, concentrate on that for a day or a whole week like we've been doing. Because it simplifies it for me, and it gives me something to focus on during the day and then reflect at night. It was a great pattern that you gave to us, and that's what I'm going to start doing. I'll probably go back to the beginning.
Oh, great. So you're going to kind of review and particularly reinforce the review through your phrase.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes, Felix.
I'm hoping to do two things. One is I'm hoping to continue with my Chaburah group, meeting once a week, and who knows, what's going to come out of that. Only good things have so far, so I'm looking forward to it. It'll be interesting because it might not be as structured as it was in the past, but I'm sure we'll figure something out for that. The second is a little ritual that I've started fairly recently, and that is, it's kind of funny because it started before they started recommending that we wash our hands a lot. I really just thought about, for some reason, baptism and the importance of water for the Jewish people in the desert. And so what I began to do was every time I wash my hands and face, which now is often, I think about Musar, and I think about, I say a little prayer, and it happens a lot. So it's a constant kind of reminder and boost, I would say.
Thanks, Felix. I put a couple of things up in the chat that I want to call to people's attention. So Owen reached out to me earlier today. Owen, Matthew, and Felix in their Chaburah triad typically continue to meet over the summer and find a book that they're going to study on their own. So Owen asked me for a recommendation for a book that they might read this summer, and I recommended Jonathan Sacks' book, Heal the World. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to look at it yet and see if you think that might be good for you. But I think there's a lot of Musar that can be gleaned from that book, and he's a brilliant writer, so that's an option. It's interesting, Felix. You know, there is a traditional ritual of washing the hands, typically before you eat. Stand by. I just want to show you something.
Stand by as we pause for a commercial.
You want to do the commercial, Mr. TV guy?
Yeah, really.
Commercial for us.
Name that tune.
Name the background you have behind you.
Control here. I just ran to the break front to get for show and tell two of these becher. These are traditional hand washing utensils. I don't know if you're familiar with these, but when we ritually wash our hands, we traditionally use this kind of a container that has two handles. So you fill the container with water and you pour it 3 times over your hands.
Oh.
And you say the blessing, which is Al Natilat Yadayim. It starts like all of our mitzvah blessings. We thank you, God, for this ritual of hand washing. So it's a very traditional practice that you're describing, this ritual hand washing. And you know, another book that you guys can consider in a whole different direction, Sacks is much more academic, but you know, I love this book by Leonard Felder, 7 Prayers That Can Change Your Life. And I've mentioned it before, it's a fantastic book because it takes prayers that are well known to us and talks about how we can incorporate them in meaningful ways into our lives. And he talks about the prayer for hand washing and this idea that as we wash our hands, we should consciously reflect on how are we going to use our hands in God's service.
Wow.
And it's a beautiful chapter that he has about that prayer. And you're right, you know, we all wash our hands so many times, and now we're washing them exponentially more times. So yes, definitely an opportunity many times a day to reinforce that renewing our dedication to God's service.
Rabbi Capel, maybe you can relieve my anxiety about one aspect of that. And that is, and I don't know why I've had this thought, but I was wondering if it's kind of a sin to pray too much.
Absolutely not. Are you concerned about that?
Well, I must have been because it just came to me as a weird anxiety, and
No. So
I just thought, you know,
yeah,
maybe
we
God
don't want to
doesn't
be
need to
OCD.
hear from me so
I
much.
know you're a psychologist. You don't want to be OCD about your prayer.
No.
But we have a mandate to say 100 blessings a day.
Oh, I'm well
Okay.
within the limit.
Okay. Okay.
So that's good. And then the rabbis say you should pray for 3 hours a day, morning, afternoon, and evening, you know, Shachrit, Mincha, and Mariv. And you should pray for an hour before your prayer and an hour after your prayer. So 9 hours a day is
That's a lot.
okay as a standard. So I wouldn't worry about it too much.
You're okay, Felix. We're just going to tease you about it.
Yes.
Rabbi, another Leonard Felder book is this one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's a great author. You have that right at hand. Are you reading it now or you already?
Yeah, you can see it's got a few notes.
It's loved. What do you love about that book? Oh, look at this. Oh,
Yeah, I like that book. That's a great book.
With Heart and Mind is great also.
Yeah, With Heart and Mind. It's a great book.
Oh, we got that one too.
So anybody else have an idea of how you were going to help your soul to hold tight to its good attainments?
So I have one thing I want to talk to you about hand washing.
Uh-huh.
I was introduced to that and those vessels by your late husband, David. And we started doing that at
Oh, yes.
Yom Kippur services. And then your current husband, Ron, and I do that now too. And it's become very meaningful. So just the personal connection with all of that.
Nice. Great. I'm glad my husbands have been of service.
Yes, me too.
I do my prayers in the morning in this book. You can see it, but I do my prayers. It's in the, oh, I don't know if you can see it too well, but it's morning prayers, afternoon prayers, and it's a little lengthy, but it does allow me to be patient to read through it. And I do keep it on my desk here in my office, next to my calculator. No, no, but I mean, I just leave it here because I realize that I'm focusing on a moment where I know I need to just stop and then just pray. And I find it really helpful, because you go through a series of things like forgiveness and praying for other people, etc. So to me, I do that twice. And then I think with Beth, it'd be nice for us to continue studying, through the summer. Hopefully we can work that out.
Well,
Yeah,
that
I
would be great.
definitely wanted to do that. Yes.
So you have, the Heal the World, Jonathan Sachs, Leonard Felder, 7 Prayers That Can Change Your Life. Those are a couple of good options for you to look at if you want to continue your study.
Very good.
All right, so we're talking about sorrow. How did everybody do with your daily phrase, your Kabbalah, your journal? What can you report back about your practice of experiencing this midah in the last several weeks?
I used a phrase that wasn't there in the handout, but it was sorrow, but hopeful for the future. And it combined the concept of sorrow and joy, that we can't be depressed. I'm not working, so I'm not sure if it's Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday sometime. I think Felix, Owen, Dale, but people haven't got a regular schedule, so I know what day of the week it is. But a lot of sorrow, a lot of gratitude for at least the position we seem to be in, yet hope that things will get better. And also, like Vicky, trying not to watch the news as much. But the other thing is, unfortunately, I'm reading a lot of history, which is what I majored in college, and how much of what's going on in the country today is a repeat of the post-Civil War era, which I studied for many years in terms of black-white relations, suppression, use of the military. And it's extremely upsetting. So I have to remind myself that there has to be hope. We have to trust in Hashem, and we will get through this to a better place.
So, it's always interesting to look at how other midot can support the midah that we're focusing on. So trust and faith are part of your experience of sorrow.
The other thing is, as you know, Rabbi, I'm trying to indoctrinate my almost 14-year-old granddaughter to watch your daily midot. I sent you one thing she wrote, and she's also reading Rabbi Shmuley's book on Jonah now. We started together.
Well, she's lucky to have you as an influence in her life.
Father, but I'm also looking at some lessons we're learning and sharing them with people who would normally not be exposed to this, both Jewish and non-Jewish. And I find there is more acceptance by people than I would have thought, that people are looking for something spiritual. And you say, like, you have to actively pursue happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the things we have to do, is look at how we view these things as temporary, and we're moving forward, and try and share that with others who maybe can benefit. They may disagree with us, but at least we can listen to each other. I'm waxing philosophical, so you all shut it off.
No, that's, listening again, such a fundamental act of caring, listening to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So this week with the passing of Diane, quite a few of us were in sorrow, and like you said, it would have been easy to just go further, in depth. I guess every time I felt like I was needing to raise up from the sorrow a little bit, I would think of her, and then I'd just start laughing and think of just the fun and kind of person she was. So vibrant. So that's how so it's not to go too low. But it was definitely sorrowful this week. Definitely.
I think I wrote down singing and dancing cheers my soul, eliminating sorrow. Being in the choir helps all that. I love singing. I dance around the house.
Yeah, so, we talked last time about, when we look at sorrow, what are the things that bring us joy? And in our reading, we talked about, other than, Torah and mitzvot, music, dance, enjoying permitted pleasures, being in nature, breathing, helping others, so many things that help us to experience joy. Yeah, maybe we should have like a dance party here.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. I'll take that under advisement. So, you raise a good issue for us, Hope. What are the things that we can do that bring us joy, even in the midst of this incredibly sorrowful time on so many levels? You mentioned music and dancing.
I also think that it's good to give to people, like make a dinner, make some phone calls, check on people. I like to do that. I like to stay in touch with people.
Hope has been amazing through our Temple Chai caring community. We've got, 90 or so individuals in the caring community, each of whom we have asked to make ongoing check-in phone calls with members of the congregation just to see how people are doing. And we have had some caring community superstars who have said, okay, I'll make my 10 calls and then, give me 10 more and give me 10 more. And Hope has been one of those individuals. So thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate it. It really helps us to fulfill our vision of ourselves as a caring community. I will say that.
It's really funny, Rabbi, that I've heard a lot of good stories, but there are so many people out there that are lonely.
Yes.
Lonely. It's really, I was on one phone call for 45 minutes and he talked the whole entire time.
Wow.
And I told him I'd call him next week. I felt so bad.
You're doing such a mitzvah. And
it's so sad to listen to these people, though. They're older. That's basically what it is.
People who are older, people who are living by themselves. And, those are two extreme situations. But, Ron is making some phone calls, Hope, as you are. And it's so much fun for me to eavesdrop when he makes those calls, because, he calls people, he has them on speaker, and, so I get to eavesdrop. And people are laughing and they're engaged. And I've heard somebody say to him, oh, I'll look forward to talking to you again. So it's just an incredible mitzvah that you're doing. So thank you so much for that. Yes, Elizabeth.
So I started taking an online course with a woman. Her name is Linda Tellington Jones. She took the Feldenkrais method and created a whole system called Tellington Touch for animals. She started with horses, and she's world famous. She goes to zoos and helps all kinds of giraffes, elephants, boa constrictors. She's worked on all kinds of animals, and she's teaching a class called Cellular Wisdom. And so one of the things I want to share with you, that she speaks a lot about this idea of source consciousness as the vessel for our soul, and that the milestones of our lives allow us to develop our intuition, and that the more we trust in our intuition, the more support we will have for our cellular intelligence, so that every cell is a perfection, intelligent cell in our body. It's such a different way to think about the divine spark in every single cell of our body. So that's been really helping me a lot to sort of get through this challenging time, in my recovery. It's when you have choices, and when you can sort of activate this, it's that divine spark that's in every single cell, and every cell is perfect. That's a very different attitude than, oh, my knee really hurts. It's like at that moment, those cells are perfect, and they are developing their own cellular wisdom and continuing to evolve. So it's just to me, that helped me spin the sorrow and the sadness. I mean, it's very hopeful to have that kind of a realization that how many trillion cells we have in our body, and every single one of them is perfect. So, because they're all formed in the image of God. So that's pretty amazing. I learned a lot about it that way.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, so it's she talks a lot. I I sent you all that little meditation from Heart Math. She talks a lot about Heart Math also, and she has these different practices for giving yourself a heart hug and all these kinds of things. So it's I'm just very like Matthew, what you said. You know, we get upset at technology, but I mean, without it, we're having all these wonderful opportunities to be able to study with people who otherwise we wouldn't be able to travel all over the world to study with. So,
Well, and you know, even our own selves, you know, God forbid if we didn't have this technology and in mid-March we just had to say goodbye and that was the end of it. Oh my God, that would be devastating.
It's wonderful to be with all of you. Wow.
We were on an airplane during the Patriots Super Bowl. They came back from like 28 points down, and watching the game live, all of a sudden the TV feed on the plane went down.
Oh no.
Everyone was panicking until someone yelled out, 2 years ago, would you ever have thought you could have watched the game at 35,000 feet? And one of the flight attendants got it on her phone, reading off the book. And that's why I wrote that. It put it in perspective. We get angry at technology and we forget, if it wasn't for technology, how would we be handling this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Matthew. And it's always so important that we focus on the positive, focus on our blessings. And that's the counterpoint of sorrow. Is one of the remediations of the sorrow is the appreciation of the blessing and the silver cloud. And, you know, as hard as the last, let's say, 3 months have been, we all have roofs over our heads. I don't think there's anybody right now who's experiencing hunger. I think somehow everybody has managed to have toilet paper.
Yeah.
You know, we have clean clothes to wear. We have a comfortable bed to sleep in. We're so far ahead of the curve of human experience. And yet, there's a lot of sorrow. And I'll just speak for myself. Mm-hmm. So let's say, you know, early mid-March when the, you know what began to hit the fan. I consider myself to be a very positive, optimistic person by nature. Mm-hmm. My glass is always half full. I have the ability, even in a negative moment, to immediately shift perspective to a positive. So I would say the first 8 weeks, mid-March, April, May, I was fine. I was tracking. I was, you know, just chugging along. Everything was great in that place of appreciation. So the last maybe 3 weeks, I personally have found myself struggling a little bit more. You know, I find that those little blue moments, just to be honest, are coming a little more often. For me, it's getting a little harder to sustain that, you know, what Elizabeth Gilbert called diligent joy when we read about that. And, you know, the events in our community of the last week, you know, they've just, it's, you know, it's like a gas flame. It's just turned up the flame as, you know, as hard as things were, you know, now, you know, we're dealing with this exponential implosion of our society and the physical threat to our well-being. So, it's not so easy. There is a lot of sadness. You know, I mean, that's like the virus that's out there in the world right now. The sadness, the sorrow, the negativity, and you know, I would say that in a way, there's no mask really that we can wear to shield ourselves from that. And if you are finding ways to still be in that positive, optimistic place, more power to you. And I'd love to hear more about how you are sustaining yourself in that way.
Well, for myself, I think that you're right. I mean, I feel like you, as far as like, as the time goes on, you struggle and realize that you have your moments where you just feel down because there's just so much going on. And then of course you have to recognize how much you're going to pull yourself in that position and when you need to bring yourself up. But at the same time, I think it's just real emotions that we're all feeling. And everybody has ways to deal with it. I think the most important thing is like in this group, we're able to share our thoughts. So we get it out there in the open and other people can share it with their loved ones. I have a really strong group of friends as far as friends and family and relatives. And we're always texting each other as far as the group of relatives that I have. And I think, you know, we all try to lift each other up. So we send little cartoons or things to let people know like we're here for them, sending hugs, and we pick up the phone and talk. Because, you know, if you think about before COVID-19, most people are just sending texts and emails, and now people pick up the phone and call. Or, you know, you think about all these things now. So I think that to be able to share your feelings and thoughts are important, but also, you know, I'm grateful that I have family around me to give me support, including my dog. So that helps a lot, you know. My neighbor across the street goes, I want a dog because I really want something to hold, you know, that was precious, which I thought was really interesting. She shared that with me.
That's beautiful.
But, yeah. And the last thing I will say is the nature, and I think you can relate to this, Rabbi, is that, you know, I make an effort to walk around our neighborhood, and I'm very fortunate that there's paths and there's, you know, nature that I can see. And I just find like for a moment I'm escaping, and like there's no radio, there's no TV, and it's just my own little time to observe nature, to allow myself to be drawn in.
Yeah, I have within the past week started swimming again. So they opened up the swimming pool in our community, and I waited a few days, but I feel pretty safe physically about that environment at the pool. You know, I'm not like hanging out and laying around, but that has been helpful for my spirits also, just to go and to swim. And you know, the one of the things I'm struggling with personally is I've spent probably 5 hours this week in the last couple of days, maybe more, on Zoom with Rabbi Chernow and Cantor Wollman, trying to imagine the high holidays.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, just coming to peace with the fact that there's not going to be 1,000 of us in that sanctuary on the high holidays, you know, having a service with us on the BMO, with everyone in the congregation. So that entire model is going to have to be blown up and a new model created. And I, you know, on top of everything else that's going on, that's a real source of sadness for me right now, is, you know, mourning for what was and trying to figure out where we're going. Yes.
Hopefully, God willing, it'll only be one time, right?
From your mouth to God's ears.
I know. Let's hope.
Absolutely. But you know what, Michael? You know, I think part of the whole gestalt is, you know, what was is not going to be. You know.
Yeah.
Even okay. So this year is sui generis. Okay, 5781.
Yeah.
5780. You know, this is a cultural change, cultural shift, and you know, it's never going to be January 2020 again.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, we all have to rethink this idea of holding our spaces in buildings. You know, it's like, how do you get 1,000 people on a Zoom call?
Yeah.
It's gonna, you know, it's like me. I mean, I moved my studio in October to this gorgeous studio that no one can come to. I mean, social distancing, I can maybe fit 2 or 3 people in there. So everything's on Zoom.
But you know, we're able to watch TV and movies for 2 hours or 3 hours. You know, you think about that, and you know, the rabbi and the cantor and everybody are the performer. We're just not there in person, but you're there. I mean, you're giving us the message. You know, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that maybe because I'm coming from a marketing set mind and I'm thinking like, wow, this is okay. With due respect, you know, I think like when we go to services every week and we're doing it online, you know, we say our prayers and everything's always the same. But sometimes there's that, you know, desire to do something different.
Oh yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
that's definitely the flip side of it. Is now it's a new opportunity for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I think that's kind of the interesting part is like, because to me, I think it's very fascinating. Like, how do you connect with people? You're right, like 1,000 people. How do you connect? And I'm thinking like, well, you're already there. You guys have the elements. It's just how do you put it together?
Yeah.
And that part, you know, is where you get creative.
Yeah. Well,
maybe have a beer or a glass of wine when you talk about it.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're trying to get creative, that's for sure. Vicki, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that during this very difficult time, it has been such a blessing to be studying the Midah of joy. You know, as an antidote to sorrow, and you could group grief and pain and anguish and distress all with sorrow. And it reminds me that joy is not going to happen naturally if you don't pay attention to it. Those moments where
joy,
feel delight, where you recognize something of great beauty and you just don't brush it off because you're preoccupied in your head with some unfolding event, but you truly savor that moment, and that it is a practice. I decided to keep my Musar books on one side and a book that I'm reading now called The Book of Joy, which I highly recommend. It's an interview of when the Dalai Lama and Bishop Tutu met, and they had a dialogue over 4 days about joy and about their lives and about how they live there. Oh, it's just a lot. I mean, I feel happy when I read a chapter in that book. So, you know, it's like you have to almost push against the feelings of that pull you down with something that brings you up. I mean, that's kind of the, I think that's the challenge for all of us.
Yeah, you know, if we were going to study sorrow and joy, you know, we couldn't have designed a better moment than this.
Exactly.
Sheila, did you have a comment? You're muted.
The name of the book that Vicki just mentioned.
Oh, I put it in the chat. The Book of Joy.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
No, what I was going to say is, I don't know how we're going to do the choir. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
You're right.
Right?
It's a very big deal, and
we love it.
It's huge, Sheila. You're absolutely right. And there's definitely a sense of mourning about the fact that, yeah, the choir is not coming into the sanctuary to rehearse together. You know, what's going to happen with the choir is you're each individually going to be in your house and record something, and then those will be digitally pieced together, but you're going to...
Oh, wow.
It may be beautiful. It may be absolutely beautiful.
Yes,
beautiful, but there's also a loss there of
course there's a
joy of being together. And
of course.
Exactly. The camaraderie that we have. Yes.
And singing, you know, is one of those, you know, real concerning activities. Wait, Felix, and then Hope, did you want to say something? Okay, just Felix and then Debbie Rubin.
Rabbi Capel, for me, the biggest issue and I think the greatest challenge is how do you create a feeling or sense of kehillah for the service. It's, for me, it has to be very different than just watching a show or watching TV or a good movie.
Right, that's what Rabbi Chernow says. It can't be Jewish TV. I'm turning on to Jewish TV.
That's
Right.
it can't. Ugh.
Debbie?
Is there any historical reference to services, the high holiday services from the Spanish flu? I mean, it's going back.
I have no idea. And, you know, in that era, you know, certainly the technology that's available to us.
Right, right. But I just didn't know if there was
Yeah.
any articles or anything.
I don't know. It's an
Okay.
interesting question.
David Volpe wrote something about that, about Temple Sinai in Los Angeles. How they had hired a new rabbi in 1918. And it was the first time people had gotten out of their homes in months. There were no services, there were no Zoom, and they brought this rabbi in, Cantor, and it was the first time anyone attended services in person in months. It was literally Los Angeles was shut down from that. You were not allowed out of your home. So you might look it up. It was something he posted recently in Temple Sinai. About the answer is there were no service. There was nothing. You had no communication. You didn't know what was going on. You were isolated. And part of the technology that we complain about at least lets us know what goes on. But how do you make it work when we expect so much? Michael, you can market it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look at a couple of more sources in our text. So I'm looking at my handout just on page 1. I'll read it to you again, so don't worry about it. This is from.
You want me to share the screen and I can put it up there so people can see?
Yeah, Elizabeth, you're so great at that. Yeah, I'm on page 1 of my handout.
Which number?
Number 2. This is from a book by Annie Dillard, Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. Anybody know this book? It's an old classic book, Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. So it's this woman, Annie Dillard, and it's kind of her journal, her meditative reflections on her pilgrimage experience of being alone in nature. And here's what she wrote. It is dire poverty indeed, when a man is so malnourished and fatigued that he won't stoop to pick up a penny. We're all like so jaded, we can't even be bothered to notice that there's something special. But if you cultivate a healthy poverty and simplicity, so that finding a penny will literally make your day, then, since the world is in fact planted in pennies, you have, with your poverty, bought a lifetime of days. It is that simple. What you see is what you get.
That's true.
I love that that thought, because it has to do with expectations and attitude.
That's right.
If you can get yourself in a place where simply finding a penny will make your day, then your day is made. Yes, Sheila.
Well, I always, when I find a penny, I just feel that that's a sign that my son is talking to me.
Oh.
So it's very powerful for me. Any coin, really. But when I find a penny, it's Jeffrey telling me that he's okay.
Oh, beautiful.
I think a lot of people have a parallel feeling, Sheila, that, and you know, I've heard it with pennies. I've heard it with butterflies.
Yes.
Butterflies, yes, butterflies too.
Yeah, and I don't know if people have other associations, but sometimes there's like something specific that was meaningful to an individual in their life.
Right.
Also, he loved Bruce Springsteen, loved Bruce Springsteen. Anytime I hear a Springsteen song, I know he's talking to me.
And it's a fascinating connection too, because when David died, Harry Rubinoff, my good friend Harry Rubinoff, told me that he sometimes gets what he experiences as messages from
Right,
the next world in the
from
terms,
spirit.
in the form of music.
Mm-hmm.
That like he'll suddenly be, he'll wake up with a song in his head that he has no reason to be thinking of
Mm-hmm.
when he reflects on it, and the lyrics. And he's actually had that experience on behalf of other people. So when David first died, I remember him writing to me like, I woke up with this song. You need to look up this song, and there's some message in this song.
Wow.
So
Bob was mentioning a dream that he had last night. He dreamt that when my granddaughter was a little girl, she told my son Jeff that she was going to run away from home. She wanted to run away from home, so she went outside, and he locked the door. He wouldn't let her in, and he said, "Why was I dreaming that now? I mean, you never know when some of this is going to come up in your life. It's really crazy." But
yeah, that wall
it's a fun,
that wall between this world and the next world is a little permeable. It's not a.
yeah, it was a fond. I said it's a fond memory. You have to tell Aubrey about it because now she's 21. She was 8 then.
So
Younger than.
did he share it with her? Did you have any memory of that?
Not yet. But it was a kind of a sweet. He woke me up to tell me. It was kind of sweet.
Well, that's powerful. When you have that in memory. So I wanted to read one more, just moving down to number 5. And Elizabeth, you don't need to share it. I'll just read it. So where is this from? This is from a woman named Amy. Oh, yeah, thanks. You're so right on it. Could you just be on every Zoom that I do and run the technology? Yeah. In fact, you made that so easy. You want to read that for us too? Maybe number 5?
You want me to read it?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Maybe, she thought as she walked, Brian McBrien was onto something important. Maybe happiness didn't have to be about big, sweeping circumstances, about having something in your life in place. Maybe it was about stringing together a bunch of small pleasures, wearing slippers and watching the Miss Universe contest, eating a brownie with vanilla ice cream, getting to level 7 in Dragon Master and knowing there are 20 levels to go. Maybe happiness was just a matter of the little uptick, the traffic signals that said walk the second you got there, and downticks, the itchy tag at the back of your collar, happening to every person in the course of a day. Maybe everybody had the same allotted measure of happiness in each day. Maybe it didn't matter if you were a world famous heartthrob or a painful geek. Maybe it didn't matter if your friend was possibly dying. Maybe you just got through it. Maybe that was all you could ask for.
Powerful.
Maybe you just get through it.
That's right.
Yeah, somebody had a loss recently, and I was reminded of something that someone said when David died that really stayed with me, which is, you don't get over it, you just get through it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, Debbie?
I just, with these readings and just this whole section on sorrow, it seems to me that if you have gratitude, if you appreciate the penny you found on the ground, the feather you found,
Feather too.
it's all about attitude and gratitude. To get to that joy. I mean, you can sit there and cry about your miseries and your woes, but you can also appreciate that I'm healthy, I'm happy, I've got a roof over my head.
Right,
I think a lot of it is gratitude that brings joy.
right.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that attitude is fundamental. And if you looked at the very first quote that I had on that document from Abraham Lincoln, a man is about as happy as he makes up his mind to be.
Wow, amen.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
I think we have to put it in perspective. I look at the the Navajo Nation, who has no running water and lives in shanties, and we live in homes with running water, flush the toilet, food on our table, clothes on our back, a roof over our head. That's what we need to think about. We are the lucky ones.
Yes.
So positive attitude is what I try to think about. When I think negatively, I think about the people who are living on the streets and, not faring very well.
So the lower your expectations, the greater your happiness.
Mm.
By the grace of God.
Yeah. So if you look in the chat, the readings that we looked at talked about the relationship of sadness and joy to faith and also to laziness. Did that stand out for anyone? Anyone have any response to how sadness and joy connect to faith? I think we talked about that a little bit, but also laziness was a theme.
Mm.
I think also honor, Kadosh.
Kavod?
Yeah, I saw honor through here.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, Hope?
I don't know. I guess we have to honor people and not be so sad on ourselves. It said the concept of Kadosh is that a person creates such a deep and constant attachment to God so that every action is connected to Him, to the point where the person elevates everything physically until every action, even the most lowly and physical, will be as sacrifices and divine service.
Mm.
Each person is considered a tabernacle, like an altar. So honor ourselves. I don't know. I tried to understand that a little more, but it was a little hard for me to do that. What's your take on that, Rabbi?
Well, I can't help but hear it in the context of the events of this past week in our culture, and this idea of every individual as being B'Tselem Elohim. And, when Elizabeth was talking earlier about the perfection of each cell of our individual bodies, if we take it up to the next level, the perfection within the soul of every human being. Mm-hmm. So let me just open up a space here for any final thoughts about sorrow and joy. You saw in the quotes that I gave you, pages 7 through 9 from Zelig Pliskin, all kinds of questions for you to continue to explore on the themes of happiness. Does your facial expression usually or rarely shine with happiness? Do you feel a need to appear happier than you really feel? What are your major sources of happiness? We talked about that. And then the converse, depression. Do you have or lack a sense of meaning in your life? When you feel depressed, you feel that there is hope for the future. in what ways does a poor self-image cause you to have depressed feelings? So lots and lots of things for us to think about. But yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. You can keep scrolling through there. But I want to, before we start to wrap up this session and also our time together, I want to just open up a space for any final thoughts on joy and sorrow.
Rabbi, you mentioned swimming, and I started swimming as well, and I find that when I add swimming or any physical activity to my day, I have a much better day, and the endorphins kick in, and my whole outlook about things changes. So that is one way I've been really conscious of keeping a schedule and trying to fit in different things. So it's been great. I mean, I've been working out with 2 different teachers on Zoom, and I never thought I would like that. And I like it. I find it easy to do in your home, and it's a connection to a live person and a group of people similar to this, but I never thought I would like that. And I would have thought that I would have enjoyed, going to a class, but I find that you're not rushing across town to make a workout. And so that's been actually interesting. There's been a lot of interesting things like that where you learn about yourself.
Yeah, there are some silver linings. My Sunday morning Torah study, I think we have twice as many people now participate in that.
Wow.
When all they have to do is click on a Zoom link as when they had to get in the car and drive to the temple. So, yeah.
Well, just like the class last week that we taught online, the study session. I can't say Shavuot very well. Can somebody say it for me? For Thursday, that was really, thank you. I was amazed because I said to myself, wow, look how many people are participating. Now, if we had to drive to the temple, you probably wouldn't get half those people. But it was really great because we were able to get engaged and you were able to chat and respond to questions. And I thought, wow, this was really a great evening.
That's wonderful, Michael. I love to hear that. Yeah, I think there were 120 people.
Wow.
Who participated in Shavuot.
Wow.
So we have a few more minutes. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to call each person individually, just as you appear on my screen, and give each person the opportunity to say a final word, either on the theme of this week's Midah or on your whole experience of this Chaburah curriculum, or let me go back to Elizabeth Gilbert, how you are going to hold tight to your good attainments, and Hope, you're at the top of my screen, so you get the first and final word.
Skip me for now because I want to hear what everybody else says.
Okay.
I can't think at the moment.
Okay, that's all right. You have any wine there that could? There. Oh, Debbie Rubin.
I'll try not to pass here, but we talked in Wise Aging about learning, in adult learning, and this has been Musar Chaburah. It's just a wonderful, wonderful experience with some really wonderful and fabulous Havruta. You are all fabulous. I feel so at ease about opening up, sharing stuff with everybody, and I thank you very much.
Thanks, Debbie. I don't know what we would have done without you and your amazing coach.
That's right.
Thank you. Some more to come, maybe.
Not maybe, for sure.
Okay.
Matthew?
I think while I've been accused by family members of drinking the Kool-Aid, Usar, I think that this group and this time has been a true learning and expanding experience. As Felix said earlier, and Owen and Dale, we are not letting go in the next 10 weeks. We are continuing. And I think the important thing is lifetime learning and pushing one's boundaries in a way that we may not have thought possible 2.5 years ago when we started this journey. And I thank you, Rabbi, and I thank everyone in the group for an intimacy and respect we all have for each other, which I think is incredibly unusual. And in this particular world we're living with, has really made it possible to cope better than I thought I could have.
That's beautiful. And Matthew, I know your Chavruta will continue to meet individually. And maybe in mid-July, let's get together just to connect and see how everybody's doing, you know, not as part of our formal study, but just so we can stay connected with each other.
We'll have a pie contest.
You know, I was so
Lowest calories.
I was so thinking, Michael, that, you know, if we were meeting in person, this would have definitely been a party night.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Oh, for sure. He finished his.
Yeah.
Felix Solomon.
Okay, well, I want to express gratitude to Rabbi Capel. Thank you, Rabbi Capel, for being such a wonderful spiritual leader and taking us on this, I have to say, too short of a journey. I feel really sad that it is ending, but I look forward to future opportunities, maybe of a different format and so on. I also want to thank each and every one who's been a part of this for your energy and for your spirit in engaging in some of the deepest, best thoughts about what I feel is so emotional and so valuable in the Jewish religion, which has to do with the Midot, of course, and the fascination I have. I want to also express about how we've learned that every Midot has its opposite, but that also every Midah lies on a continuum from too much to too little. And I don't know, for me, this is going to sound strange, but this is what I'm thinking, okay? So for me, it's like a gyroscope that is stabilized by spinning around. There's so much to process, and you have to be so fast on your feet mentally in facing everyday life's challenges. And I ask myself, what midah or midot can I call upon to help me with it? I have to just keep spinning and stay stable from the spin. So thank you, Rabbi Capel. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to the future.
Yeah, no big goodbyes. This is like the Jewish goodbye, you know. You not. You can.
Was it long enough? Was it long enough?
You can check out anytime, but you can never leave. So yeah, I think there are like 15 months of Midah a month. So you know, hold that thought. Owen.
Felix, that was a wonderful metaphor. That was just visually beautiful. So for me, yeah, and yes, thank you to all of you. And I'm just remembering back to when this started. This was the first thing I resumed doing after Mary Ann died. And so talk about a safe and loving, intimate environment. This was it, and this really helped me become to grow not out of grieving, but to incorporate it in a way that helped me, became a part of me in a better way. I know now that, so from the very beginning, I've been aware of thinking about Musar in interactions with people all the time. And I know that when I don't have a Musar moment where I'm not saying to myself, this is a Musar moment, one of two things is true. The person that I'm dealing with is not being honest with me, or I'm not being honest with myself. And that I'm missing some connection to myself, and therefore to the purpose for being on this planet. So it has, from day one, has helped me navigate back to the nautical metaphors. So, so thank you to all of you, and especially to you, Rabbi Koppel. And I'm a better person because of this.
All right, Elizabeth.
I was turning the pages and my notebook sprung open. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for letting us join you from Sharona's group. There were some of us who jumped over from her group. We studied together 2 years together, and thank you everyone for welcoming us to the larger group. I keep my fascination, especially this spring, with the midah that we were playing with, and all of the midot, was how relevant they were in this given moment. And I don't know if that always happens in the courses, but we were studying falsehood, and we were studying judgment, and it was just, we were reading these ancient texts that were still relevant today. So to me, that was fascinating. The other thought that kept going through my head is that it's not an accident that the timing of all of this, that we are sort of we are sort of the ambassadors to help our fellow humans navigate this challenging time, because we've spent so much time in silence and in contemplation and together working through these sometimes very difficult texts. I just think that, in service to God, that's why we're here. And so it's been a great journey. I appreciate every single one of you. And those of you who know the other side of me, Joy, to continue to work on my comedy routines. And so I do have a joke to tell you that I from my COVID experience learning about antibodies, I never realized how many different kinds of antibodies they are, and I always just thought that they were those things that were inside of anteaters. I'll leave you with
God, Liz.
Well, Elizabeth, I'm so glad you joined us, and saying yes was one of the great decisions that I ever made, and you've brought so much to the conversation, and thank you.
Yes.
Bless you with the Refuah Shlema.
Thank you.
Sheila,
stay healthy.
Sheila, any final words you want to share?
No, everybody's kind of said it. As far as I'm concerned, I thank everybody for their honesty and for just being who you are. And I love you all. And thank you, Rabbi Koppel, for leading us on this journey. It's been quite an experience. Thank you.
A lot of love here. Michael?
Well, I just want to say that I'm grateful and thankful for Rabbi Capel and everyone for helping me to live a deeper Jewish life.
Beautifully said. Hope Weiss, I'm not letting you have the last word just because you
Yeah.
bailed initially.
Oh.
Okay, here I am.
Here you are.
Well, you caught me off guard and I didn't have time
It's
to.
okay. It's okay. No pressure.
No pressure. Well, I thank you, Rabbi Capel, for guiding us through this journey to find the balance in all these, we dotes. It's extremely hard to balance this. Some days we have good days, some days we have bad days, but I think trying to keep positive and to keep walking is the only thing we can do, especially in today, what's happening in today. I mean, sorrow is so much here. And I pray for everybody. I pray that only good things happen and we don't get affected by all this. And we are affected by it, but I pray that this time shall end. And I thank each and every one of you for being gracious, accommodating, and precious to me, for all you say, you do, and who you are. That's it.
Beautiful.
Beth?
Here, there.
Beth Isaac, are you there?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Kind
Yes.
of. Sort of.
You can hear me?
What?
Okay.
It's frozen.
Yeah, this has been a great group to work with and to learn with. But can you hear me? Can you hear me?
The audio is a little odd,
Can you hear me?
but we're bearing with you.
Okay. I give up on technology.
Oh, better.
Don't give up.
Now we can hear you.
Well, we
You
certainly
can hear me a little bit?
a smiling face.
Go ahead.
I don't know what it is. I just,
Go ahead, Beth. We can hear you.
huh?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, thanks, Michael. Okay. So, this has been an awesome group to be with and to learn with. Like Debbie said, we've come to love each other more. I knew most everybody, but this is a different way of getting together, and it was wonderful. Great learning, fantastic leader, facilitating, and just bring you so much. Can't thank you enough for what you did. So you are, oh man, oh man, hold on.
Yeah, it's okay, Beth. I'll just say you are an exemplary Musar student. And if I could point to somebody who takes it seriously, who walks the path, who does the work, Beth Isaacs, you are the paradigmatic Musar student. Dale Klika, how are you?
Thank you, Ryan.
I feel some sorrow.
Yes.
That might take a pause.
Yes.
And one of the insights that I guess that I've got from today's session is how easy, at least for me, one can think in sorrow, and how much work, as you're mentioning, you have to do for some people to have happiness. I mean, we don't work for sorrow, but we have to work for happiness. I just want to say to everyone, I'll get choked up, how much I appreciate the community of support we've all given each other, spiritually, emotionally, and developmentally in terms of learning the Medot and connecting so much of our values into ourselves, the group, and society. And this has meant so much to me in terms of this stage of my life spiritually. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know everyone. And I want to thank you, Rabbi Capel, also for your leadership of this group, but all that you're doing and all the other sessions that you do to help us grow and maintain our life. And this group has been a lifeline. And so I thank all of you very much for that.
Love to hear that, Dale. Vicki.
Well, Rabbi, thank you, first of all, for your spiritual leadership, your guidance. Thank you for welcoming me into this Temple High Musar family. I really appreciate that. To Debbie, my Havruta, faithful Havruta partner, to all of you for providing a very, very safe and loving, caring environment. When I started Musar, I was in my second year of a grief process after losing my husband. And I think Musar has been one of the paths that I've taken to kind of come back to myself. So I really thank you all. I remember articulating that I wanted to study Musar because I wanted to be a better version of myself. And I think I'm on that road. So thank you all.
Yeah, we think you're pretty darn good just the way you are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amanda, guess what? Sue is in and out, so unless Sue pops back in, you, Amanda, get the last word.
Okay, I'll wrap up by saying thank you all for being your authentic selves. It's been so wonderful to get to know all of you, and I feel like every time I reach out and do something at the temple, I get to meet more people, and when we do resume back into the actual facility, then I will know so many of you, and it'll be so wonderful because I still feel like I'm new at the temple. Now I think it's been 3 years. It's gone by so fast, but being still so new, I don't know a lot of people whenever I go onto the campus. And now I feel like I've met so many more. And I thank you, Rabbi Capel, for being empathetic and for everyone sharing their wisdom. And I've grown so much. And I really like what you said, Dale. This has been a lifeline for me during this time. I've looked forward to connecting on this level, and I feel like I've really have been in the moment, and I'm listening to each of you and focusing on that, and it's been wonderful. So thank you so much. I won't be joining in the next version of the class, but my Havruta will continue on, and I'll be continuing Musar, and I'll see you on campus eventually. Thank you.
Well, in Hebrew, when you say goodbye, you say lehitraot, which is a reflexive form of the verb to see. Lehitraot. So we will see each other, we'll see ourselves until we see each other again, whether that is virtual, whether that is person. We could say shalom ulehitraot. I'll make sure that sometime in July we have just a social virtual get together, and then in August we're going to hit the ground running with Nida a month. But I want you to know I'm always here for you. I love you. I love this group. This has been such a rich and enriching part of my life, and I'm so grateful to think that maybe it was that for you as well. Very, very special group of beautiful, struggling, learning, shining souls. So thank you so, so much. It's been a joy. It's been a real joy.
Shalom. Shalom.
Thank you.